Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm really glad you're here tonight. My name's Scott Harker, and I'm a certified gut health specialist. And I work with men and women, helping them with gut issues, sugar issues, inflammation, and just help them become more healthy. And tonight, we're doing a live. I am so excited to be here tonight with friends and to be able to share. And so I just want to take an opportunity to share my friends that's going to be in here tonight. We've all are using a protocol that we're going to share with you tonight that has given us a lot of transformation. And we just transformational stories tonight. So, first of all, I'd just like to introduce folks. First of all, Bill Poe. Bill, thanks for joining us tonight. Bill's
Thank
going to
you.
be sharing his story with us tonight. And the famous John Cox. John, thanks for joining us. Excited to hear your story. And Terry Waffle. I don't know, your camera's off, Terry.
I'm here
And
still.
okay, well,
Yeah,
we'll have your
yeah.
camera come on here in a minute, and then we have Robert Cook. I know he's off the side, and he's going to be sharing with us as well. Hi, Robert. Um, I'm really excited because for Bill, Terry, and Robert, I haven't got to be on a live with you guys before, so I'm really excited to hear your stories tonight. And so that's going to be really exciting to hear that. Tonight, if you're on this live, I want you to take a moment and I want you to tag somebody. If you're hearing this on Facebook, we've got this running on YouTube and we've got it running on TikTok, all platforms tonight. Tag some friends and share it with them. If you are dealing with things like stubborn weight gain, brain fog, fatigue, high blood pressure, inflammation, or if you know somebody that could um, really use this information. I take a moment, tag them in Facebook or one of the other platforms and get them on there, or even get out your phone and text them and have them get on this. You're going to hear some really neat stories tonight and things that are really, really transformational. All right. So let me get over here and share something with you. I want you to do something tonight while you're on this live. I want you to look at this wheel here, this wheel of different symptoms, and think about it. If you're dealing with one of these, maybe tonight you're having trouble getting rid of weight around the middle, and dealing with that visceral belly fat. Maybe you've been told that you're just getting older and you're dealing with arthritis and whatnot. And we're going to bust that myth tonight. And it's not just about age. Maybe you're dealing with high blood sugar, type 2 diabetes, PCOS, or ED. Maybe you're having trouble sleeping. Maybe you got high triglycerides or have heart issues, right? Tonight, I want you to look at these and go, wow, there's a lot of different symptoms up here. And I could have put in probably 20 or 30 more symptoms on here. But there's a connection with all of these. Every one of these, or almost every one of them, has a separate doctor. You have nephrologists, you have neurologists, you have general practitioners, you have all kinds of different doctors for each and every one of these. But there's a couple things, and primarily one thing at the very center that is at the root cause of these things, and that is insulin resistance. So tonight, we're going to go through that and explain what insulin resistance is. But if you have one or two of these, and or more, you're more than likely insulin resistant. So, but before we get into what insulin resistance is, I just want to share with you to make certain you understand what insulin is. Insulin is a hormone that is absolutely necessary, and it's produced by the pancreas that acts like a key to unlock your cells so sugar can enter and be used for energy. Insulin is not the enemy, it's actually very good and it's necessary. But when we get into what we call insulin resistance, right, this is what um, is really important for tonight's call and to really understand in this live what's going on. I don't know if you've heard about insulin resistance before, but let's just talk about it for a minute. When insulin, basically, when insulin resistance, you get insulin resistance by basically your cells starting to ignore the insulin. And so let's take a look at the left side and the way it works. When we eat something, our body turns that into sugar or glucose in the blood. And insulin attaches to the cell and basically unlocks the cell to allow that sugar to enter into the cell for energy. But when we become insulin resistant, that key doesn't work so well. And the insulin can't open up that cell very well. And so therefore we start to starve our cells. So that's why a lot of times when we eat a lot or we eat food but we still have, let's say, low energy and we really can't get to where we're at, a lot of times it's related to insulin resistance and our cells are starting to starve. So that's why we feel tired, we crave more sugar, and your body starts to store fat. It's not about needing more fuel, it's about using the fuel what's in our system more efficiently. Okay. And so tonight, remember that as we start to talk about what insulin resistance is, and it's really your insulin or your cells going deaf to insulin and not being able to open up the cell so that we can get the fuel in. So tonight, I'm going to go to our first guest tonight, Terry, and introduce you a little bit. You've got a great testimony, I know, and we use a protocol that we'll be sharing throughout tonight that helps us become more insulin sensitive and also heal our gut. And we'll be talking about that more tonight. But Terry, talk to us a little bit about when going on the tools that we use. And I'm going to hold them up here. We use a couple tools um, that has helped us, all of us, become more insulin sensitive. Tell us what it looked like before and after, and tell us your story. And I'll show your picture when you're ready and a little
Okay.
bit. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I got introduced to this in a crisis of my life, and most people know that, but anyway, I got started on this, and I had been fighting a psoriasis eczema type thing on my hand for 6 years. That I had been to the doctor. I'd been on steroid pills for 4 days. I would have steroid creams. I would have all kinds of creams to put on it for 6 years, and it wouldn't heal. I mean, it hurt. I crochet once in a while, and I couldn't even crochet. It hurt so bad. And within 4 weeks of starting this protocol or the Feel Great system, it miraculously, and you can show the picture. But it was cleared right up. What I found was I was getting my gut health right, because when my gut health was right, it was coming out on my skin. And I also, 5 years prior to that, 3 times I'd been in the emergency room for my gut itself. I had extraordinarily pain. Felt like I just felt like I don't know, a bowling ball in my gut, and there was no relief. And anyway, I took gluten out of my diet, and that helped some. But I was having some problems. I've been on this for a year, January, so 18 months, something like that. I've been on this, and I have not had any gut pain, any gut problems. And then my hand is still both my hands, on both my hands. And so, and the other thing that's helped me with it is my mood, my anxiety. I didn't have depression, but I had anxiety. And, I was going through some things that are really, I could have been crying daily, stuff I was going through. And it kept my ball at bay, and it kept me even floating along. But I did lose weight. What I noticed for me, because I heard one time on a call that somebody came up to the person and said, "Man, it looks like you lost 5 pounds." And they're like, "No, I only lost 10." But it looked like he lost 35 pounds because the inflammation had gone down so much. And that's what happened to me. I lost 50-ish pounds, but it looked like I lost a lot because I had so much inflammation in me. But to date, I've lost 30 pounds and whatnot. But
Awesome.
yeah, I really have benefited from it majorly. Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's an awesome story, Terry. That is so really tells about how it repairs the gut. You know, me being a gut health specialist and working with my clients on this and seeing this, and so I've seen this a lot. And you brought up something that's so important, and other folks that's been on the protocol. Sometimes you don't lose the weight quite as fast as you want, but what you have to do is heal the gut and start to get rid of the inflammation. I've seen people, they go, "Well, my clothes are fitting a lot looser, but I haven't lost the pounds." Well, that tells you you're starting to heal from the inside. You're not just getting rid of, uh, you know, uh, things like water off of you and losing muscle mass, what you're doing is you're starting to heal from the inside out. And that right there is a real testament. I've dealt with psoriasis myself and seeing the benefits of it. And this is amazing to see that kind of clarity start to happen with your skin. And that's an awesome story. I've never got to hear your story. So thank you for sharing that. That is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks.
All right. Robert, if you want to share your story, that'd be great. And I've never heard your story. So I'd be like, so Robert Cook, and nice to meet you. And just like to hear your story, what it looked like before and after you started using the protocol.
Well, I'm glad to meet all of you. And I got introduced to the program in October, and I'm diabetic, and I had knee pain in both knees, and they told me I had to have knee surgery and cramped all the time. And I had met Terry at church, and she said, "Here, try this." And I go off, nothing, so I get tried, and I tried it. I got high blood pressure. I was taking 3 high blood pressure pills a day. Now I'm down to 2, and I don't have no hand pain, and I don't have knee surgery no more. And I've lost 55 pounds in weight. I don't have a gut more, so which feels good. And I mean, I drink it about 3 a day of the lemonade. I love it, and they introduced me to the strong.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
And I love that, the peach. Oh, it's so good. But yeah,
You're diabetic too.
and I'm diabetic, and they took me off my metformin,
Yeah, metformin. Yeah.
metformin, and put another lower dose pill, which helps a lot. I mean, I've heard a lot of bad things about metformin, but finally got off of that, and I go back into the doctor on the 7th for more blood work, and then on the 9th I go back to see my doctor, and I'm hoping he takes me off all my cholesterol pills and my pressure pills.
Mhm.
Oh, awesome, Robert. That's great. That's showing that as you're starting to change on your medicine, that you're becoming more insulin sensitive, and so that's awesome to be able to lose that much weight. I'm sure that I can relate. I lost a lot of weight myself using this protocol, and it just makes you feel better, and you want to do more things. I know for myself, and so that is a great testimony. Well, thank you for sharing that. All right. Let me go ahead and share a couple things. I want to just share a little around the science, a little bit more on what we've been talking about. We've been talking about insulin resistance, but it's in and what causes that. And one of the things is that every time we eat, our blood sugar rises. And then what happens is where, like I said earlier, is that we need to get that blood sugar out of our bloodstream into our cells. And so what happens is your insulin rises to do that. And insulin's a good hormone to be able to do that. But when we become less sensitive to it, and we don't respond, it takes more and more insulin. So what happens is when we start out our day and we eat in the morning, we get this blood sugar spike. And you may feel energized for a very short period of time, but then your insulin comes up and shoves that spike down, and you start to get a crash. And if you've been on, you're on the live tonight and you've kind of felt those crashes, that's what's really happening. And then what our next thing we try to do is say, well, I don't have the energy. So we go after another carb or something sugary to get us back up, or more caffeine and things like that. And over time, that leads to weight gain and inflammation. We'll get into that in just a few more minutes about why that leads to inflammation. And we tend to get into this cycle of this roller coaster day in and day out that tends to basically cause us some issues and starts to basically cause inflammation on our body. And stable blood sugar, okay, equals steady energy, better mood. Terry, you talked about that in a minute. And I'm going to explain a little bit why the gut is tied to the mood here in a minute and what really happens there. Fewer cravings, and the body can start to heal and thrive if we start to stabilize that blood sugar. Okay. So, like I said, when insulin stays high, your body goes into storage mode, and that's so important. And so, for us to ever get into what we call fat burning, right, we've got to get that insulin down. Okay, so when your body is in storage mode, you may experience low energy and afternoon crashes, cravings for processed foods, right? Because our energy is low, but also when our gut is unhealthy and had the bad bacteria crave the processed foods like the carbs and the sugar, stubborn weight gain, especially around the belly, right? We get that, can't get rid of that belly fat. Our brain fog and poor focus, we have that because we've got inflammation happening in our body, and in that increased inflammation and stress on our body, and we can get into poor sleep and recovery. And so what we're trying to do is stabilize that blood sugar and then to get that insulin low and to stay low for a period of time. Okay. One thing I want to show here, and then we'll get into another testimony, is that inflammation. This is so important. Terry, you talked about that at the very beginning in talking about inflammation. You didn't really realize you lost much weight, but you started losing inflammation, and you start to see it in your body. You start to feel it in how your clothes fit, right? Well, chronic inflammation by itself is actually not a bad thing. When we get a cut or we get a bruise or we break something, our body protects ourselves by inflammation. But the problem is when your body constantly sees things through like the sugar or our guts are unhealthy, we have this constant inflammation response, and our body starts to protect itself by our white blood cells going out and taking care of the toxins that's inside of our body. And that constant chronic inflammation is what starts to cause the things on the right side: low energy and fatigue, brain fog, weight gain and instability, digestive issues. And digestive issues actually causes inflammation, and our weaker immune system and joint pain and discomfort, right? So, this chronic inflammation that we get into, once we start to heal the gut, we get rid of the insulin resistant and insulin resistance, and we become more healthy, right? That inflammation starts to subside. All right. So, Bill, we've never met before tonight, and I'm glad that you're on here. Excited to have you here tonight. So, if we could get to share your story a little bit, and I'd like to hear what how it looked like for you and how you use the protocol.
Thank you. Um, I only have been on the protocol for about 5 days, so I don't have as big a testimony as Terry does, but I will tell you that in 5 days, the clarity, the energy, I wasn't expecting that to happen so fast. I wasn't expecting to feel that energy. And also,
Mm,
you know, the the stuff that helps us, the things that are doing it, it's brought such a mental clarity to me. It's helped
mm,
me. This is going to sound strange to some, but it's helped me in my walk with the Lord,
mm,
because I'm learning so much from different people and hearing the testimonies of what happens in their lives. You talk about a fire. As a matter of fact, I'm a pastor at a church. In the last 2 weeks, the messages have been about fire, testimony, and man, you got to see what is going on with people. We have to be to share that, and that's been super exciting to me. And so I can't wait to get more involved, to be able to share more testimony to help more people, because the
mm,
first thing that I want to say too about that is my buddy John here. That was the thing that impressed me about this is let's help some people. And I'm like, whoa, now there's something I don't hear that often. What do you mean, let's help some people? And that was kind of one of those flames that had just died in me because, you know, but then when you find out that they're going to help you help people, I was like, no, wait a minute, this is number two crazy. Are you serious? You're going to help me? And when they actually do it, you're like, oh my God, you really are showing up. You really are here to help me. You really are like, hey, what can we do? What are you facing? What's happening? And I'm like, well, you're shocking me, man, because I've been in corporate for all my life and I've never had no boss come to me, hey, how can I help? But it's been really good. And I know you got a lot of great things to share. And so I'm going to turn it back to you, Scott. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Terry. Thank you.
Nice to meet you again.
Well, Bill, your testimony is great in 5 days and having that clarity, right? And you're right. It does impact how we feel, right? And this is why all of us are on here tonight. I didn't say that as much. I talked about our testimonies and the transformation that's happened in us. But me as a gut health specialist, I was not using this protocol, and I was doing things a little bit different. When I started using it, I became compelled to add this to my protocol at sharing, because we've seen it help so many people and just transform so many lives. You just can't help but to share it. And this has become our passion. I know it's John's passion. He goes all over the place. I've started going all over the place sharing it, and it becomes actually fun to see it. And in my business, I have this thing called live, where we call feel great, live called. And when you feel great, you can live called to do what your calling is, right? And feel that purpose. And I know that as we're on here tonight, many of us, and many of the people that we have on these lives, there was times where they couldn't get off the floor, or get on the floor to play with their grandkids, or get off the floor and get up once they got down, right? Or do things, and you feel so great afterwards. Well, so that's a great testimony, Bill, just for your 5 days of being on the protocol, because there is a real science behind of why it helps brain fog and how you feel. Now I'm going to introduce John Cox. I got to know John about a year and a half ago, roughly, and John and I have done some meetings together in person. And John, I'm going to give you the floor for as long as you want to tell about your story. You've got a epic, I guess, I really just think an awesome testimony and what it's done for you. So, John, I'm going to turn it over to you and just share with our folks on here tonight. And folks, you feel free to drop things in the chat. I'm going to be looking at them, and I'll try to answer your questions afterwards or as we go along and get in the chat if you've got any questions about the protocol while John's talking. So, John, thanks for joining us, and take it away.
Yeah, you bet. They just had me on here, folks, just to prove that if I can do it, that anybody can do it. And it really comes down to just deciding that enough is enough, deciding that I'm tired of feeling the way I am. And I tell you, a lot of it stemmed back to I watched my dad get sick at 36, and it was on my 13th birthday. He had emergency surgery, and it did not go well. And his life went from provider, strongest man I knew, to disabled the rest of his life at 36. And I watched that, and always growing up, I'm like, I never want to experience that. And you kind of think you're bulletproof until some things hit you. Right. I mean, we all have problems in life. People, if you associate with people, you're always going to have people problems. Some of us have had financial problems, relationship, whatever, but we can have 1,000 problems in our life. And when we get one health problem, those other problems are small. Everything now, you have one major problem to deal with. And for me, it came in the form of diabetes. Now, insulin resistance, it hits us all different, right? That insulin resistance wheel, if we're insulin resistant, some of those are going to hit us. And for me, it was diabetes in my early 30s. And I remember when that first hit, I was working 60, 70, 80 hour, 100-hour work weeks at John Deere. And I had hundreds and hundreds of people working for me. And I was exhausted all the time. I just thought, well, 80 hours a week and hundreds of people, that'll do it to you. I had no idea what cortisol or anything like that would ever do to you. And I remember the one night, Carrie, I woke her up. I mean, I wouldn't even tell her how I was feeling, because I don't know if it was a pride thing or denial thing, because I watched my dad die young. And but my calves and my muscles in the middle of the night one night, they just started spasming. I'm like, okay, this isn't normal. I thought maybe I was just majorly dehydrated. I didn't know why, because I was drinking all the time, peeing all the time. And Carrie's like, hey, if you can't figure this frequent urination thing out, we have 5 bedrooms in this house. Feel free to go pick another one, because just because you don't want to sleep doesn't mean I don't want to. And so we go into the hospital, and I'm like, all right, whatever, no big deal. And I hear him talking about body bag, gurney. Can't believe he walked in here. And I'm like, there's no one else in the ER at 2 a.m. Who in the heck are they talking about? They're talking about me. And for those of you that are diabetic, my blood sugar was 598 that night, and my A1C was over a 16. And the doctor's like, well, how long have you been diabetic? I'm like, well, I'm not. He's like, oh, son, not only are you diabetic, but you are in a very bad way. So I spent a week in the hospital and they put me on insulin, which is the worst thing they could have done. I mean, maybe short term to get some of the blood sugar down. But when you're type 2, it's not that you don't make enough insulin. You have too much. Your body is swimming in it, but they treat it the same way as type 1. So I spent a week in the hospital, put me on 2 blood pressure meds, cholesterol meds. And every time I'd go to the doctor, I would hear how bad I was doing. I'm sure some of you, hey, exercise more, lose weight. And half these doctors were just as fat as I was, and I'm like, well, eventually I asked one guy, and Carrie's in the room, like, all right, doc, so what's your secret? How did you lose all the weight? And he was bigger than me. It wasn't very nice, and I have to ask for forgiveness for that. But it slipped out because I was so sick of it. And fast forward, I eventually got neuropathy. I had retinopathy, where the blood vessels in the back of my eyes were bleeding. I was faced with getting shots there. And in about a 20-year period, I took over 20,000 insulin shots. And then eventually neuropathy set in. And I think I kind of blew off diabetes until then, because I didn't feel terrible, other than I was fat, 80 pounds heavier than what I was. But when the neuropathy hit, my lifestyle of hunting and fishing and outdoors, and I never stop. I mean, I still never stop. That grounded me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to take narcotics. And then my friend Becky calls. So if there's anybody on here that's skeptical, you haven't met me yet. Because when Becky calls, I wouldn't even answer. Well, she left a message and she probably did some things wrong. But I'm like, no, what's this new thing? I've seen that. And for 4 months, she would call me and I wouldn't take the call. And finally, Carrie's like, would you at least look at it? She goes, I don't want to be an early widow like your mom. And I tell you what, Scott, when your wife tells you that, that's like hit me right alongside the head. I'm like, all right, Becky, show me your deal. And then I met this gentleman named Trent Tueller, and he radically changed my life. To have someone that was willing to help and help me get better, and didn't take long. I got my life back really quick. In 6 months, I went from being a skeptic to off insulin shots. After 20 years. I was off all my neuropathy meds. Neuropathy was just a little tingling and numbness then. It wasn't painful. And I had lost 67 pounds in 8 months, and I got my life back. And then I just couldn't stop telling people about it. And that's why, I continue to run my mouth about it. If someone wants to do it, great. If they want to do it, great. People are at home praying for this. We just got to go find the people that are at home praying for this. So, and I got off blood pressure meds, cholesterol meds, neuropathy diabetes meds. My eyes got to where they're like, John, you were a wreck 18 months ago. And they showed me the pictures. It was bleeding all over. In 18 months, they were crystal clear, and my vision improved. So that is why I do what I do. So
Awesome. And the folks, look at this picture. Transformation right there happening. And John, I'm so glad you did and get to meet you and to develop that friendship over the last year, and your passion for sharing this with folks, right? Shared it with thousands of folks and being able to start changing their lives. So it's been great. Thank you, John, for sharing that. Oh, wow. And also, when I'm sharing these slides, folks, you guys can jump in at any time. This is an open conversation. And folks, if you're online tonight and you're hearing about this, feel free to reach out to any of the folks on here, and we'll talk about how you can get this protocol. And we're going to share a little bit more about it and what it does even more, and how you can get it, and how it works, how we apply it to our lives. But if you've got any questions, drop them in the chat. We'll be watching. And if not, I'll reach out to you and try to answer them later if you got any questions about these. But one of the things is we can talk a little bit about tonight. I'd like to spend a few minutes is that how did we get here? Right? What has changed in the American diet? What has changed in our country and the world that cause a lot of these issues? And it's actually relatively pretty simple. It's our food has changed. If you look at about what early 1900s up to the 1950s of where people were really at, there was two things that are really very different from where, if we look back, not too long ago, really, even though it says the 1900s, many of us, we lived in the 1900s. I mean, that sounds like a long time ago if you put it that way, right? But we did, right? And it's about sugar and less fiber. And those are the two big things. Our food has changed so much. Sugar is more, I think I can say this, sugar is more addictive than cocaine, right? I can say that on this platform. I'm going to say it anyway. Because when you think about it, we're all addicted. We've all been addicted to sugar. And if you think about it, look at that middle, and hopefully you can see it is that over the last 50 to 100 years, we eat more sugar and refined carbs and less fiber. In the 1900s, early 1900s, and up to like 1950, we were eating about 5 to 10 grams of sugar a day. And now the average person eats 130 to 150 grams. Think about that difference. That's how it's packed into our food. Fiber consumption, 40 to 60 grams a day. Now we're doing 15 to 20 grams. And a lot of that isn't our fault. It is related to the food that we have, where we eat, what we get at our stores, because our food has changed so much, right? And that has an impact on your body. And if you look at the right side of this chart, our blood sugar spikes, sugar and refined carbs cause these rapid spikes and crashes. Insulin stays high. Frequent spikes or keep insulin elevated and promote that fat storage. And you're going to keep hearing me say that over and over, because that's going to really get to understanding here in a few moments of why that's so important to help us lose weight. Inflammation increases, right? High sugar and low fiber drive inflammation throughout the body. Gut health suffers, right? Less fiber means less food for good bacteria, right? So our gut really relies on that fiber to feed the good bacteria. And our cravings, right? Spikes, crashes, and poor gut health lead to more cravings and low energy. And this increases our overall risk for things like heart disease. And I'm going to say it, the big C, cancers, and different things like you've seen on my slide at the very beginning, that insulin resistant wheels, insulin, our Alzheimer and dementia, right? Alzheimer's now is called type 3 diabetes, and they're all related to less or more sugar and less fiber. So one of the other things that I kind of geek out on, and I always have to share a little bit about, because this is my background, is around the gut, and it's so important. And Terry, this ties so much to what you said earlier, right? Your gut and the things that you were dealing with. And I just had to share this. So I had to throw this slide in here for a minute, is that the gut is so important. It's your second brain and your metabolic command center. Okay. So when your gut is out of balance, you can experience bloating, gas, and constipation, right? You get into digestive discomfort. And it's a common sign of an imbalanced gut. You're in dysbiosis, meaning that you have more bad bacteria than good bacteria. Your brain fog or poor focus, right? Inflammation in the gut leads to uh, impact your clarity, right? But Bill, you brought that up earlier, that you're starting to, your brain fog starting to go away. It happens really quickly. If we start feeding the good bacteria in our gut, right, and it can happen and change very quickly, that second brain starts to open up their pathways to where we start to now not have as much a fog in our brain, and clarity starts happening. Our low energy, poor gut health can lead to poor nutrients absorption that causes that low energy. and unstable blood sugar because we're not producing the short chain fatty acids that we need. Stubborn weight, right? Inflammation and gut imbalance can make it harder to lose weight. And then frequent illness and inflammation, because 70% of your immune system comes from your gut. And so when our gut isn't working well, our immune system isn't working well. And then, Terry, this is where you talked about mood swings, or you talked about it more depression or anxiety. And this is where most people don't really know this, is that about 80% of our serotonin is produced in our gut. And most people think that, our happy hormone is produced in our brain, but it's not. It's in our gut. And so when our gut isn't in good shape, we start to get where it can cause anxiety, depression, and things like that. So your gut affects much more than just of digestion, right? And it does a lot more than that. So we get into this vicious cycle, and I'm not going to go through all this tonight, but when that insulin rises and we get stuck in storage mode all the time, our inflammation increases, our gut balance gets disrupted, we get into more cravings, low energy, and weight gain, and we get into this vicious cycle of high sugar, high insulin, right? Drives our sugar down, and then we turn around and we bring our sugar back up again because we tend to eat all of the time. And if you're on here tonight, you've probably heard this before, and I know you guys on this call have heard this before. How many of you have been told to eat 6 to 8 small meals a day? Well, when we do that, right, actually what happens is our insulin stays high all the time, and we never get into rest mode. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But I want to just take a couple minutes. I think we got time is to share my testimony a little bit before we get into the product and kind of talk about time-based eating. My wife can't join us tonight, but she always gives me permission to share this. A little over a year ago, well, a year and a half, March of 2025, this protocol was introduced to me by a guy named Alan Kashner, good friend of John and mine now. And I think, Terry, you probably know Alan, shared this with me. He reached out to me and says, hey, you got to take a look at this. John, I was skeptical too. I said, damn, somebody trying to sell me something. My background's in engineering before I got into gut health specialist. But I had to dig into it, and I wanted to make certain that it was really good for my clients. Got into it. I researched every patent and dug into it to make certain it was safe. And I won't spend for 16 weeks. I lost 45 pounds. My blood pressure was always a little high, or I would say pre-hypertensive. It's normal today. I feel like I'm 53. I feel like I'm in my 20s, I would say, late 20s, early 30s. My joints don't hurt. I've got psoriasis. I will say this, it hasn't completely cleared up, but it has made a huge difference to the point where I don't really have to worry about taking certain drugs that can cause a lot of issues there. And so I was really excited about how that's slowly helping me there to get rid of that as I've been improving. And I also had ulcerative colitis. Now I'd gotten rid of that and got in before I came on with this. I would say I was in remission with that. Prior to that, we using the protocol that I developed for myself. But as I started using this, the fiber that we use with this is just absolutely phenomenal and really even helped me there. My wife, in about 16 to 18 weeks, dropped 40 pounds. She was having pre-diabetes type of symptoms. In the morning, she was seeing resting blood sugars around the 120s to 130s. And in 2 weeks, she went from resting blood sugars in the 130s to 140s to down to the low 90s to the 80s in the morning in terms of fasting blood sugar, reduced inflammation, increased energy, and off of antidepressants that she had been on for over 30 years. And those are just phenomenal, and just what it did for us and our family. And so that's just been really exciting for us in our testimony of what it's done for us. So let me go ahead and share a couple more things, and then John, I'm going to have you share about the product a little bit and share about these protocol that we're going to share in the tools. But this is something I want folks to understand. Your body was designed to be in rhythm, not constant eating You know, eating breakfast, then a snack, then eating lunch, and then a snack, and then eating dinner and another snack. It needs a time to get into rest, and this is how our body works. So we have our fed state, right? We eat, our blood sugar rises, and insulin responds, and then we get into a rest state when we stop eating, and insulin comes down, digestion slows, and your body begins to repair and recover, right? And then we get into this reset state, which where we really get into fat burn. But here's something that most people don't know is when we stop eating our last meal of the day, we don't really start burning fat until hour 12. And so if we eat anything before hour 12, then the whole cycle starts back over again. And so that's why it's so important to get into a rest state. And now we call that intermittent fasting. Now, don't freak out here tonight if we're talking about fasting, saying, hey, you can't take away my food. We really don't talk about calorie restrictions or things like that. We talk about when we shift when you eat, right? It's not about starvation, but it's talking about when we eat. And we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. But that's something that was so hard for me prior to this. I had tried intermittent fasting prior to this protocol. I couldn't do it. So if you're out there tonight and you've tried intermittent fasting, and you say, I can't do it, you guys are crazy. I'm going to tell you, I couldn't leave my corn chips alone. I couldn't leave my carbs alone. And under this protocol, it has become so easy to do it. But it's so important to give our bodies time to rest so that we can get into burning fat between hours 12 and beyond, right? And so we try to get into a 16-8 rhythm, meaning that there's 16 hours where we fast, and an 8-hour rhythm where we can have our food. And really, it's not that long if you think about it. Most people go from 7 p.m. at night to 7 a.m. in the morning without eating, and that's 12 hours right there. So you only got to get 4 more hours there. And so, John, if you don't mind, if we can have you take us through the products a little bit and spend a little time talking about the two tools we use, and then Terry's going to show us how we use the tools and how we use it in our life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm an engineering background, just like Scott. So I'm a natural skeptic until I see data and proof, and that's what it took. But I remember Rexall pharmacies and going in there with my parents and grandparents, and I probably went in there for the penny candy back then. But I remember going in there; they were everywhere. But and that's this company. They've been bought. One of their employees bought it. It's now Unicity. But this product, this balance product here, it's not on trial. We're not saying we hope it works or I wonder if it works. It works for 100% of the people that take it, but then also give it enough time, right? Everybody's body, we come into this at a different level of messed up, right? John Cox's body was one step towards death. And so this thing has been around for over 35 years. There's 5 patents just on this balance product. It's been studied by the biggest clinical institutions across the country, and that was really a big deal to me. I mean, it's in the PDR, the physician's desk reference, and it's an all-natural substitute for metformin and something called statins, and often works as good, if not better, than both of those. Now, the benefits, Terry will walk through how we take it, but I mean, it really helps us heal the gut. When we drink it, it's going to coat our stomach lining. I'm going to give you the remedial explanation of it. Scott's like a brainiac. He's like 1,000 times smarter than me. But really, it heals, right? It's a probiotic. When our guts get so out of balance with good bacteria versus bad, he mentioned dysbiosis. I never heard of that, right? And I was always a moody guy. I can go from 0 to flip a switch, man. And I probably said some things that I probably regret and had to say I'm sorry a lot because I was just kind of a hothead. But this here, when you take it, it's going to coat your stomach. It really is going to help keep stuff in longer. It's going to slow absorption into your bloodstream so that we can kind of get a lot of it out of there before it goes right into the blood. And one of them is blood sugar. It helps with cholesterol. I don't worry a ton about high cholesterol, more the triglycerides. This is the best thing I've ever seen for bringing down triglycerides, which is a blood fat. It's the most dangerous thing in your body. And for those of you that are gearheads, it'd be kind of like trying to run gear grease through our heart rather than 5-weight, right? And I'm sure I must have a really strong heart, Scott, because I ran a lot of gear grease through my arteries for a long time. When I first started this, my triglycerides were over 600, which is not good. It's not good. But what happens? We mix it with water. It thickens up. It helps us stay full too. I was always a 2-plate guy. Dessert wasn't even a question. And then maybe I thought about the 10 o'clock leftovers at night. I'm sure no one else has ever done that. Sitting here, I'm like, oh, there's still a piece of steak in there. Well, that's okay. But the problem is the cake and the brownies and all the other garbage that I had. But this will really help heal your gut. The Cleveland Clinic, they're the #1 heart hospital in the world. Basically said if our population would take this, if everybody would take this, it basically would eradicate heart disease and diabetes. Now, if you had a physical defect, right, this isn't a miracle worker missing a valve or something, but this will help. And if you do have something like this will not hurt. So then the second product, and you can also see there, University of Sydney, it shows what it does with blood sugar. With me, when I first started taking it, my A1C, Scott, even when I first started taking it, was a 13.6, and my blood sugars are running about 300. So out of control. That study shows if you take one of these with a slice of white bread, and it doesn't matter if it's white bread, sourdough, whole grain, it's all sugar. And that's about 4 teaspoons of sugar for every slice of bread we have, because it strip all the fiber out and all that. A loaf of bread won't even mold on your countertop anymore. When I go to the Amish households, I mean, if they leave it sit there for 2 days, it's moldy. Now you can leave it sit on the counter for months, and it's because they've stripped all the fiber out of it. But anyhow, if you take 2 of these, and this is what really caught my eye at first, because I studied the graphs, I studied the information because that's just who I am. And it showed that it could drop my blood sugar. And this isn't even the most up to date, but the most up to date study shows it can lower your blood sugar spike by about 43%. And you can get right on the Unicity website, and I'll show you that. So yeah, this, and then there's another product called Unimate, and it's a 1-2 punch, right? I mean, for about 20 years, the world only had this for about 25 years. And I was like, well, why haven't we heard about these products? It's because the rest of the world's wanted a natural solution. You can't even advertise in most countries prescription drugs. Here, I mean, it couldn't be because the government gets money for helping with all that, and big pharma and all that. But the second product, there's a patent on it. There may be 2 because we have a decaf now. And this here is called Unimate. And for those of you, I mean, intermittent fasting seemed impossible. By 9 o'clock, I'd want to eat my arm off. But what we do is we mix it with water. I'm sipping on my last one of the day. I don't know. I may have a mint chocolate tonight. Just kind of sounds good. Decaf. But what this is going to do, it helps keep insulin levels low. It's going to help with blood pressure. It's going to give you energy, but not like coffee. It's not going to spike and crash. It's theobromine. It's just gentle caffeine. It's going to really promote satiety. It shuts off that, Scott talked about the brain, the stomach, the gut is the second brain. I'm not hungry when I'm sipping on it. It makes fasting easy. And when I'm in that study on the right shows that if we are drinking this, our body can learn to make GLP-1 again, and it can improve our GLP-1 production by up to 67%. And it takes away all the food noise. So it just makes it easy. And so, yeah, I mean, we'll end it with there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And more of a technical thing, it's also tasty.
It is, yeah. Yeah,
it's very good. Tasty. So that's the technical thing I'll add. They're tasty. So yeah, thanks, John. That's a great explanation of how the products work. Thank you. Well, folks, let's Terry's going to share with us. We've been talking about intermittent fasting, and I like to call it time-based eating, because that's really what it's about, is timing for our bodies. Terry, why don't you share with us how easy the product is to use and how we use it during the day for a moment? If you could just take a couple of minutes and do that for us.
Okay. What I share what I do, and then it goes along with this. But eating about 7 o'clock at night, but then so I go my till about 11, 12 o'clock the next day. So I try to shoot 16 fast. Like they said before, this takes out the hunger noise. So like before, I would always have the munchies. I'd have to have a few chips or a few this or a few that, and there was always something I was grabbing. This system takes the hunger noise completely away. When I first started, I thought 5 o'clock I haven't ate anything. This is crazy, because it does work. So I'm helping that part of it. But so when you get up in the morning, you mix a bottle. I do it, sir, but it comes in a bottle. Mix a packet of the lemon, or there's different flavors, Unimate, with that water. Shake it up, and you sip on it all morning. Okay, and I hadn't ate since 7 o'clock, so you're getting ketosis, and it's starting to burn the love handles off your body. And instead of feeding your body food, you're into ketosis, so you start burning the fat off your body. So then 11, 12 o'clock hits. Some people do have a lunch, and some people and you can eat anytime. Like we said, restrictions. But this is this kind of the program they share. You mix another latte around 11 or 12, and keep sipping this all day. The idea is to drink 2 Unimates a day. Now you can have more, but the goal is 2. And you sip on that. You may have salad, you may have, cottage cheese, or you may, what do you decide to have for lunch? Okay. But then idea go to the afternoon, and your biggest meal, and this is just but say it's 5 o'clock, and you're going to have your meal. So you have baked potatoes, broccoli, or you do have pizza once in a while, what have you. You mix this balance with about 10 ounces of water ish, and then you shake it up, and you drink it up right before you eat. You drink it all up really fast, because it'll thicken up in your gut to line your gut, to prevent what you from going into your system, and it does cut down your sugar absorption in your body. So you do that before your biggest meal, and then you're done eating at 6 o'clock. You can continue to sip on your mate all day long. I drink it till midnight or whatever. That is how you do it in a nutshell. But the idea is, say your biggest meal is at noon. Then biggest meal, you mix your balance before your meal, and you drink it all up before you eat your meal. Now, like John said, he has had 2 of these a day. He had it before, and you can have 2 of these a day. But like they say, the idea is to stop eating at 7 o'clock or 8, whatever if you're second shifter and you have a different schedule, go with your schedule. But you want to go 16 hours fasting, or your goal to go 16 hours. And then in the 8-hour window, you eat in that 8-hour window. I will say in the beginning, I'd have people say, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go long without fast. Then start out with 12-hour fast, then work it up to 14 hours, or whatever you can do and you're fine. You're going to go 6 plus, and you're like, I have anything. This stuff curbs your appetite, or the noise. But yeah, that's when you get up in the morning, and you're at 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning, you're in fat burning mode, and then it's starting your love handles. This is what's happening. So
Eat those love handles for breakfast, right?
yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Terry, for sharing that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead. We've got just a few minutes. I want to honor folks' time. We try to stay within an hour here, but let's just talk a little bit about how you get it and a little bit about the product. One of the things is that John talked about earlier, and you can see it's I got the Rexall Drug Company up here is to just kind of walk through it. This has 5+ patents. It's in the PDR. John mentioned that earlier, and what that means is the physician's desk reference. You can go to pdr.net and take a look at it and type in Unicity Balance, Unicity Unimate. You can share it with your doctor. We encourage you to work with your doctor as if you're trying to come off of meds, right? It has over 20+ clinical studies. It's all safe and natural. And one of the things is we look at this as being guaranteed. It has a 90-day money back guarantee on it with a subscription, and with the use of the app, and we can walk you through that and explain to you what that means. But basically, use it for 90 days, and it doesn't work for you. The company guarantees the product, and they'll give you your money back. And the other thing is we look at this as being cost neutral. And for me, being a budget nerd, it does. It is cost neutral. In fact, we save money because we don't eat breakfast. We're eating less, right? We're not starving ourselves. We eat till we're full, but we're saving that $5 to $10 a day after you've taken the cost of the product, and we've used it in our family. We've got 3 kids inside of our family that we use it a day. And then it's also with 60, I think now it's 62+ countries. My slide is out of date. Some countries have been added. If you know how hard it is to get this kind of product into a country, and these countries, it's being so widely accepted as countries are starting to see how effective it is and also how clean the product is, whatnot, it's exploding all over the country or all over the world of other countries starting to pick it up. And one of the things and I'm going to go ahead and put this up here before I forget. One of the things I run it across the bottom, I was going to try to, it's not working. There we go. Tonight, if you reach out to one of us, you get a special deal with us in terms of the cost. If you can't get my laptop to work there, is if you would go onto the website or get it other places, it's I think around $235 or $240, something like that. I just couldn't remember the cost is right now. But if you reach out to any one of us on this call tonight, you're able to get that locked in for life for this price of $159 a month. That's only about $5.30 a day plus tax, so about $5.60 some dollar, or $5.30 or 60 some cents a day, depending on what state you're in and what your tax is, if you have sales tax. But if you think about it, that for you go and buy a cup of coffee someplace, $6-7 easy now today for a cup of coffee, or a snack somewhere, you can spend that. Say about that testimonies, John or anybody else, feel free to add in. But one of the things is John brought this up, kind of alluded this early. Give yourself some time. Give it a 30, 60, 90, or 60, 90-day shot at, or a year, because it took us, we didn't develop these problems with our bodies in one cookie or one snack. It took us 10, 15, 20 years sometimes to do that, right? And sometimes we need 90 days or 6 months to do it. Give it a shot over a year to see what kind of transformation that can happen in your body. Every one of my clients who's ever used this and used it right has seen great transformation in their bodies and how they use it. Anything else to add, John, or anybody else you'd like to add tonight?
Yeah, just like Scott said, get back with the person that invited you on this call, and they can help you through it, get you their price. It's exactly the price that all these folks paid. If you stumbled onto this live, get with the person that you relate to best, and they'll help you. I mean, Becky, I had never seen this in the 35 years that it was available. And no one's ever contacted me in the last 3.5 years about this. No one knows about it, but they're at home praying that you call them. And all of us have a certain circle of friends. And the only way we help heal our country in the world is one person at a time, getting healthy, reaching out to somebody else. So Scott, thanks so much, man, for coordinating this. I know we're right at 8 o'clock. And you're going to start seeing these pop up basically every night again, somewhere. So thank you so
Hey,
much.
one thing
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John. One thing I want to add, I've got a question in the chat. I will reach out to you. That's a pretty complex question. I've got your name around the cancer and also around stage 3 uh, kidney disease. I've got some experience with that, and I'll reach out to you on Facebook and send you a direct message. So if you're watching, I'll send that out. I got your name down, and I'll reach out to you. I want to make certain I answer those questions. Folks, I just want to say thank you for joining. Folks with our testimonies, Terry, Bill, Robert, and John, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you joining this live tonight. Folks, we want you to feel great and live called. If you're feeling great, you start to hear your body, you can do so much more and be able to share with your family or do what you want. Just reach out to one of us. Any one of us would be just so glad to help you. So thank you very much, everyone. And look for us again on another night. Thank you.